is brought to you by Gassam Cement.
Welcome to Hot Issues. As you probably have heard, over the last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of noise about adulterated food, about contamination of various foods and drugs and so on. This week, we are going to take a look into that. Welcome to Hot Issues. Hello, welcome back to Hot Issues. And as I indicated, over the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of noise about the contamination of food, inappropriate drugs on the market, and so on. And at the very center of this is the Food and Drugs Authority. And we are privileged to have with us the Chief Executive Officer of the authority, Mr. Hudu Mogtari. Sir, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Broadly, what is the mandate of your organization, of the authority?
The mandate of the Food and Drugs Authority is to protect public health and safety. And it does so by regulating specific products. And these products are provided for in our law, which is food, drugs, medical devices, cosmetics, household chemicals, tobacco and tobacco products, and also clinical trials. So generally that is what we do to ensure that all these products that are found on the market are in compliance with the laws that have been created.
And how do you do that?
Well, we do that by, first of all, making sure, as the law provides, that all these products are registered. Now, the process of registration includes the verification of the site that these products are manufactured. It includes looking at the documentation of the products. Those that are imported, we ensure that before they enter the country, they have the requisite documentation that covers them, that ensures that the products are of the quality that they are supposed to be. We have other ways of doing that. That is before the products enter the market and before they are produced. And then, whilst they are on the market, we have processes we call post-market surveillance, that we go on the market and randomly pick samples of these products. We test them to ensure that they comply with the standards. There are other instances where we don't go to do that, but we get tip-offs from citizens of this country of some form of malfeasance going on. Then we go in, take samples, and when we test and they do not comply with the rules or the regulations and the law, then we take regulatory action.
But not all the products can be registered.
Well, I mean, if you look at in the area where we regulate, of course that is true. There are a lot of things that we may not be able to register, but as much as possible, we try to do what we call the risk-based approach to this. We pick those that are very high risk and make sure that at least we cover them, and those that are low risk, from time to time when there's a problem, we deal with it.
Most of the people who could cook food along the streets, like kelule, like fried yam and so on, use what is in effect waste cooking oil.
Well, they
go to the restaurants and buy the oil that they have used and used and used and used, and the restaurants are discarding and use it for cooking. Could that not be hazardous?
That could be hazardous. And as at now, I'm not sure we have any evidence of these things happening. But like we know regulation is a matter of collaboration. The Food and Drugs Authority, and it's not only in Ghana, in most jurisdictions, the regulatory authorities always need the support of the general public to bring out these issues. And if you look at some of the work we've done in the recent past, we have had to use the police, we have had to use other agencies of state, we have encouraged the public to give us information. So if we get information of recycled oil being used in such foods, we will definitely go in, take samples and test, and then we'll let the general public know whether it is safe to continue using them or not.
What is making the news now is the case of Sudan dye in palm oil.
Yes.
First of all, what is Sudan dye? And why are you so concerned about Sudan dye?
Well, Sudan dye is a coloring. It is used to give color to products. And in our local parlance, it's called Sudi. In actual fact, it is supposed to be used to dye leather, for instance, for our shoes. It is used in the industry to dye cloths. And this Sudan dye has been found to cause cancer. In other words, it is carcinogenic. And there is an international committee on the research into cancer, and they have come out categorically to state that there is evidence that this Sudan dye is a possible cause of cancers. And therefore, we should not have it in the foods we eat. We should not ingest it. It must only be consigned to the industry where it is used to color things that are not supposed to be eaten.
So what is the work that you've done on Sudan dye so far?
I think over the years, and from my information, which is available at the FDA, is that the program started somewhere in 2006 when there was a big issue of palm oil exported to Europe, which contained Sudan dye. And the Ministry of Trade took the initiative to bring together a lot of stakeholders. And some of these stakeholders are the Ghana Standards Authority, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, the Customs, and the other agencies that are involved with the export of food. Now, when this happened, the Food and Drugs Authority, it was Food and Drugs Board then, took up the challenge to start testing for Sudan dye in all palm oils that are exported. Now, at that time, the concentration was on the export market only. And this thing continued. There was a lot of educational programs for the manufacturers and the exporters of palm oil. And it has continued. So there is no palm oil is supposed to be exported without a certificate from the FDA indicating that it is free of Sudan 4 dye. And this has been going on. However, we found out that the incidences of contaminated palm oil, palm oil adulterated with Sudan 4, is increasing. We had some palm oil being returned from the United States of America. And then we decided that, okay, all along our attention has been on the export market. Why don't we look at our local market, our own people, what they are consuming? Is it possible that they are contaminated, they are adulterated with the Sudan 4 dye? And that is what led to us going to the market and picking samples and testing them. And our test results was actually alarming. And we found that about 98% of all the samples we took contained the Sudan 4 dye. And therefore, as our mandate requires, we needed to protect the safety of the public. And that is how come we issued an alert to the public to inform them that this is what is going on in the market, and therefore we are going on with other measures to ensure that we rid the market of palm oil that has been contaminated with Sudan 4 dye.
Where did you take the samples from?
Well, we took samples from about 10 markets in Accra. We have Malamata market, Abogloshi market, Medina market, and some other markets. There's a total of about 10 markets. And we did so because we had very good reasons to believe that about, the practice of adding Sudan 4 dye is very common in the Greater Accra region, because our work are the areas where they produce the palm oil. We find out that it is not contaminated. In fact, most of the producers of palm oil do not even know what the dye looks like. But then, this issue is perpetrated by the market women who go to buy the palm oil. They initially put the dye in the containers that they used to go and buy the palm oils. And then they fill them. They ask the people to fill and shake. And so with our work, with our investigations at the production level, we realized that the problem wasn't in those areas. The problem was more to do with the market women who buy them to come and sell in Accra. So our focus was on the markets that had the highest probability of having those oils that are then supplied to the other smaller markets. So we concentrated on those 10 markets within Accra, and we did our sampling there.
Is it true that of the 50 samples that you took, only one was not contaminated?
Yes, that is the case.
Only one out of 50?
Yes.
That's serious.
Very serious. Very serious.
Now, having found that 49 out of 50 samples contained Sudan 4 dye,
yes,
what then did you do?
We went out there and with the police. In fact, we had very good support from the narcotics division of the police service. We went out there with them. We seized all the containers from the places that we tested and were positive. And we brought them to our office to do further confirmatory tests to ensure that every aspect of it contained the oil. And then, the adulterant. Then we sent these people to the police, because all the 22 women that were arrested actually confessed to adding the dye to the palm oil. So we handed them over to the police to continue with further investigation and then possible prosecution. So we've taken that step. Now, since then, on a daily basis, we are also moving from market to market in Accra with the police. We are actually seizing the products that we know have the Sudan 4 dye. Now, what we tell the women is that if you actually tell us there's Sudan 4 dye in it, we take it and we would go and destroy it. If you insist it does not contain Sudan 4 dye, we would take samples and go and test it. If we find that it contains Sudan 4 dye, then it means you have committed a crime. We would seize the product, and there will be sanctions that will be applied, and there will be prosecution that would follow. So that is what we are doing now. In fact, today, before I came here, my staff came from some of the markets. I may not mention the names of all the markets, but we are going from market to market. And we are concentrating in this area because we believe that about 80% of this matter is actually perpetrated within the Greater Accra region.
Now, some of these things came to your attention at least about 7 years ago.
Yes.
How come that we still have it on the market? Is it the case of you're not being effective?
Yes. Like I told you earlier, the issue from our understanding, or from the understanding of the FDA, was that when palm oil was exported to Europe, because of winter, the palm oil would solidify.
Or would sleep.
Would sleep, as in our local parlance. So the Ghanaians and other Africans in Europe told the importers, or from our side, the exporters, that if they did that, it will prevent the oil from sleeping. And so we thought it was an external phenomenon, and they felt that once that is done, it doesn't sleep, and it maintains the red color of the palm oil. But we realized that no, maybe all this while our attention has been to the export market. And we insist that the producers come for testing and all that. Little did we believe that our own local people with a small scale would be doing the same thing in this country.
How did you find out that that was the situation?
Well, first of all, in Ghana, small-scale manufacturers are not obliged, to come for the testing of their palm oil to see whether or not they contain this. And we just sat as a regulatory authority to say that maybe we've been looking in one direction only.
So it was a hunch.
Yes,
hunch.
It was a hunch. Yes, okay. Yes, and we needed to confirm to ourselves that we don't have it on the market. But to our utter shock and surprise, it was all over in the system. And what we were told was that these people were putting it in to enhance the color of the palm oil, because the belief is that palm oil must be red. But if you look at the actual color of palm oil, it's actually orange. It's not supposed to be red. But people want it to be red, and therefore they started contaminating or adulterating the palm oil with the color to make it look redder. So it was a hunch. It started as a hunch. We didn't have any tip-off or complaints, but we based it on what was happening internationally. And that actually affected the reputation of Ghana as an exporter of palm oil. And we thought that, well, if we are doing it, why don't we look at our own people too? So that is where it started from.
So far, have there been any prosecutions?
Well, I mean, it's, I think it's barely a week or two now. And the police have told us, yes, they are processing them. Actually, our laws do not give us the powers to prosecute. So once we arrest the offenders, we hand them over to the police. We take regulatory action. I mean, if you are found to be doing, there are fines that we can impose. So those are things we are able to do. But the powers of prosecution lie with the police. So we hand them over to the police. And since we did this in collaboration with the police, we saw there was no difficulty because they actually understand the issues and they knew the crime, they knew the charges to prefer. So as of now, we've been given all the assurance by the police that there is going to be prosecution. But I can't tell when that is going to happen.
Hello and welcome back to Hot Issues. And we are looking at the contamination of food and drugs. We are looking at unwholesome food and unwholesome drug, and the controversy which has surrounded what the Food and Drugs Board has found to be Sudan 4-dial in palm oil. And we are very privileged to have with us the Chief Executive Officer of the authority, Mr. Hudu Mogtari. And just before we went on the break, I said that it was important for us to move to the area of drugs.
Yes.
I visited the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and we spoke to a number of doctors, and they claim that there's a clinic in Accra, supposedly herbal clinic, which claims to have a cure for prostate cancer. And the doctors are angry, they are livid, that this clinic is just killing patients. Do you have any role to play in this?
Thank you very much for the question. I look at it in two ways. We as Food and Drugs Authority, we deal with products. We have another agency of government under the Ministry of Health which deals with practice. Now, we have the Medical and Dental Council that is supposed to deal with people who are practicing medicine and the claims they make. The Food and Drugs Authority would come in when somebody says, this is a product I am using to take care of diabetes or prostate. Then we hold them to strict proof. Does it really do what you claim it does? Is it harmful to the people who would be using it? That is where we come in. But in my opinion, what we are talking about is purely a matter of practice.
No, it is not.
If
I set up a clinic,
yes,
and I claim to be curing prostate cancer,
yes,
and I'm offering grounded charcoal as a cure, I'm offering a product.
Exactly. I mean, if there's
apart from the question of practice, there's also the question of product.
Yes, yes. I am yet to come across any product that they have used with claims that do not, conform with the product that they are selling. I'm yet to see that. I think if there's any product that they are using in that place that has not been registered by the Food and Drugs Authority, then there's a question to answer. But to the best
don't you do random checks? Don't you go to the clinics and hospitals and find out what they are dishing out to the innocent population?
Oh yes, we do that. We do that from time to time. We do not, on a regular basis do this. And like I said, if we receive complaints, I'm sure that if any medical doctor had lodged a complaint with the FDA, I'm sure would have come in by now. Like I said, most of our activities, we actually require and we usually appeal to people to support us because we are just like any government agency. There are constraints, in terms of resources, in terms of personnel, So we ask that people support us in this. We receive a lot of complaints, especially about some medicines that have no effect, some medicines that have causing adverse drug reactions that are not anticipated, and doctors report to us. Other citizens report to us. And any such report we get, we do the investigations. We have an expert committee, which is an independent body that advises the FDA on such matters. We do our investigations, we take the results to them, then they advise us on what steps to take. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we haven't been approached on such an issue. And I think that it is a civic duty of everybody to report such things. And I'm sure people know the appropriate quarters. But having said that, I think this is also a wake-up call. This would also make us take steps as FDA. We would go in there and look at the issues and look at those that infringe the laws that we regulate. Then we would take action.
If you tune into radio and television, you hear lots and lots of adverts, especially about aphrodisiacs.
Yes.
Are you interested in that?
Oh, yes. And if you monitored the media, I think about a month ago or so, we had to revoke the licenses of some products that were registered but did not declare certain aspects of the medications. There were about 5 or 6 of them that we revoked the licenses. These are herbal products that were registered with the FDA. In their registration or in their applications to register those products, they did not disclose that there were certain aspects. It was supposed to be herbal. And, you know, the global laws allow that if there's a herbal medicine or plant that has been used over the years for a certain ailment and, you know, it is not toxic to the body, it should be allowed. So on that basis, we would register a lot of herbal products. But then, if they make claims that are beyond what we know, then we would ask for proof through clinical trials that they are supposed to have done. So yes, we are concerned about, you know, herbal medicines, you know, but we do not approve any aphrodisiac if we have not taken the time to test them. I'll tell you a specific case of those that we would revoke their licenses. There are certain allopathic medicines, I mean Western medicine, which are used to treat erectile dysfunction. Our local parlance will say impotence, but the real word is erectile dysfunction. Now, these...
Not all of impotence is erectile dysfunction.
No. And impotence could mean a lot of things.
Of course.
It could mean that, you know, fertility issues, but erectile dysfunction, that's the inability to have an erection. So it's completely... So, and these things are certified. But then, these are products that are very high risk. And so even the quantities that are in the tablets that have been allowed are measured. But then, what we realize is that our herbal medicines producers import empty shells that is used to make capsules. If we know what we call a tupaye, tupaye is usually a gelatin capsule. It's a shell.
A bomb belt.
A bomb belt. And then the medicine is in a powder form. It is put into it and then it's capped. So it's closed. So when you swallow it, the capsule dissolves in your system and is absorbed. Now, what we found out was that the capsule, which is usually not tested anywhere in any regulatory authority, the shell, is adulterated with these other medicines that are used to treat erectile dysfunction. So when they bring them, then they put the herbal preparation as powder inside the shell and close it. So what happens is that if you bring those things to the laboratory for us to test, the usual thing is open the capsule, pour out the contents, and test. But then we had an alert, a WHO alert, that this is what some people are doing in some countries. So we started actually now testing the capsule shell itself. And that is where we found out that most of the products that are on the market are adulterated with these medicines that pose a huge risk to humans, especially to the heart. And this can cause a lot of heart attacks in people. So that is how come. But then the other aspect too is the issue of advertising. You know, we have had a series of meetings beginning as I came into office, I think more than a year now. What we've been doing is to educate the media houses. We've educated advertising companies on the law. The law exists of what you can and cannot advertise. We have a schedule.
Is it a question of law? I mean, if you're
Exactly.
sitting behind a microphone
Exactly.
and you can reach thousands of people,
Yes.
doesn't common sense just tell you that before you say that somebody should go and take a drug, it should be properly tested and
Yes.
testified?
Yes. Yes.
Is that not just a case of common sense?
Exactly. And I think that there was some action taken a few years back. And I know even some DJs were actually arrested, and some action taken. And I think there was a lot of brouhaha in our system. We have cases where we even tell some people that they cannot advertise, and these are in the law. And it became a big war that we were trying to collapse some people's businesses.
But should you care?
I mean, in fact,
should you care about whether you are collapsing businesses of killers?
That is not our issue. Our duty, our mandate, is to protect public health and safety. There are other agencies set up to protect businesses. They have to look at that aspect of it. Mm-hmm. But we look at this thing, and so we don't care. And we had the last meeting with some of the media houses. We said the talk is enough. And we expect the general public to also support us when we take action against such people. Because we have a case of somebody who actually appeals to children, advertising alcohol. And we come out and say, look, the law is against it. That if you have a child appeal and you advertise, what you are doing is to encourage children to start taking alcohol at a very early age. And so,
how do you determine that somebody has a child appeal?
Oh, usually it's. I think the marketing people have a very good way of doing this.
I'd like to find out what way it is. How do they determine that?
Yes, I mean, it's very easy. If you go out there for children, you sample children to ask them, I mean, the people they see on TV, who do they remember? And they'll tell you those that appeal to them. And those who are into marketing, most of these food and beverage sellers, they do that all the time. And they find out the people who appeal to children. So if they want to target an advert to children, they try to use such people. So that is easy to determine, And so most of the time you have these things. And these are laws that we have made for ourselves to protect the citizenry. But any time you try to enforce it, you would see an uproar, And so we decided that, look, let us sensitize the public enough. And we have done so to the best of my knowledge, at least for the last 2 years. We've been doing that. But we think that it's time to get into action and to actually get people to prosecute so that these advertising of aphrodisiacs, and I think that even from the colonial times, we still know that there are laws that prevent you from advertising alcohol within certain hours of the day. We all know, but people perpetrate it. So
now,
yes,
we still have a lot of adverts in the media.
Yes.
Aphrodisiacs, alcohol at all times, and so on.
Yes.
When are you going to crack the whip?
Very, very soon.
How soon?
Well, maybe it might not be prudent for me to give out the time now, but I can promise you very, very soon we will start action.
So very, very soon we're going to see radio stations and television stations and presenters taken to court for infractions of the law.
Yes.
Very soon.
Very soon we are going to, and you see, we recently formed what we call an interagency collaboration committee, because we know that to be effective in our role, we need collaboration from a lot of government agencies. So we have that going, and these people have come together. We've had 2 meetings already. On that committee, we have judges, we have people from the security agencies, BNI, National Security, EOCO, we have Customs Division, because there are times that you take action and somehow you are hindered by other agencies thinking that you want to encroach on their mandate. So we've done all these things to ensure that the moment we strike, we will get the maximum support from the agencies that are supposed to help us in this matter.
What about the facilities available to your work? Obviously, would require very good laboratories and so on.
Yes.
What about those facilities? Are they adequate?
They can get better. I mean, what we have now, under the circumstances, we are able to use them effectively to do the work we have to do. But we also believe that if we could improve on what we have, all the better. Now, one of the things we've done to assure the public and to assure everybody that our labs are capable of doing what they are supposed to do is to get international accreditation for these laboratories. So as at July 2014, we had ISO accreditation for some parts of our lab. This year, we have had accreditation of some of our practices and our rules that lead to getting an efficient system. So we have an ISO 9001 that we got this year. So we are going on with this accreditation process to ensure that everything we do is based on best practice and is based on standards that are acceptable worldwide. Yes, we could do with more equipment. We know now that there's a lot of technology available. So if there's technology that will improve the way we are doing our work. We recently acquired some handheld machines that in the market, in the field, we could take a tablet, slot it in, and the machine would tell us what is contained in the tablet and whether or not it is counterfeit. So this is an area that if we had the resources, we would wish to acquire more to help us in our work. And there are other machines that can improve our work. So if we can get this, yes, that will be good for us.
To what extent do you collaborate with the Standards Board and other agencies like that, the universities and so on, Noguchi Institute?
Yes. We have a lot of collaboration with these institutions you mentioned. In fact, on our governing board, we have the executive director of the Ghana Standards Authority on our governing board. Again, we have standards that are set by Standards Authority that we use. We enforce standards as regulators. The Ghana Standards Authority is supposed to provide the standards. We have agencies like Noguchi Research Center. Noguchi, we've had a lot of times that we have taken samples and given it to them to test so that there would be that level of objectivity when it is tested so that people know that it is not just FDA that is sitting and testing and using its results to judge people. So yes, there's a lot of work we do with Noguchi as well, and some other research institutions. We take, for instance, Food Research Institute. There are a lot of tests that are done there. We accept their results in our regulatory work. So do we when we get results from Ghana Standards Authority.
Yeah, welcome back. This is Hot Issues, and we are in conversation with the Chief Executive Officer of the Food and Drugs Authority, Mr. Hudu Mogtari. Now, sir, what has changed since you became an authority?
I think that not much has changed, but I believe the designation of an authority is supposed to come with more autonomy. The Food and Drugs Authority is supposed to be an autonomous body, or a more autonomous body than the Food and Drugs Board was. And I'm sure that is why we already have signals from government that we are going to be weaned off completely from the subvention of government. And I think that is what it entails, that once you become an authority, you are supposed to be financially and operationally autonomous. We've received a lot of letters from government to get ready to be weaned off completely. So the current status where our workers, our staff, collect their salaries through the Controller and Accountant General would be a thing of the past once the autonomy is finally given. So we are in preparation. We are working with a committee that the government has set up for us to be weaned off the payroll of government. So I think that is what it entails. That is the...
Will you survive? Will you survive that?
Well,
you're not a trading company.
We are not. We are not.
You are not supposed to be a profit-making organization. And so
no.
How are you going to sustain yourself when you are weaned off?
Yes. I think that, first of all, our sources of revenue are mainly from the fees and charges that we levy on the clients who come to register their products with us, and the fines that we impose when there are breaches of the law. This is an area that, first of all, we believe that if we are given the necessary support, we are expand our coverage, because there's still a lot more areas that we should be covering that we are not yet covering. And so if we cover these areas, most likely there will be enough revenue for us to run our organizations. And of course, we also look at the improving our efficiencies in the way we do our work. We believe that if we improve our efficiencies, we will cut down some of the losses, and that will help us survive. But I believe also that the government is very much aware of our revenues that have been coming in over the years. We have the non-tax revenue department of the Ministry of Finance that has a close look at our books. And I'm sure they've looked at the books and they think that we can be on our own, and that is why they're asking us to be on our own. But that is difficult, is a challenge that we need to face.
Couldn't that lead to a situation where getting to the end of the month, staff realize that there's not enough money to pay them, and there's a rush into the market to arrest people and get fines so they can be paid? Would that not be a setback for your work?
Yeah, that could be, but that is why there are checks and balances where I talked about accreditation. Accreditation is not just about our systems we run. It's about the personnel as well. Mm-hmm. And there is a regular auditing of our systems. People come to look at what we do and ensure that we do them properly. And they would also ensure their focus is not on revenue generation, but in delivering our mandate.
How is that possible when government says that you go and take care of yourself because you're an authority? You have to generate the revenue to be able to stay alive.
Yes.
Is that not a problem?
I think it is a problem. But what I've said is also that it is also surmountable. It is a problem that probably looking at the streams of revenue, that if we were probably to downsize in some way, that should be possible. But I agree with you.
But already you don't have enough personnel to do all the things you're supposed to do. How are you going to downsize?
That is very true. That is a big challenge. And we are still talking to
Shouldn't
government.
all of us, public officials like you, citizens of Ghana and so on, be putting pressure on our government to find the resources to fund the things that need to be funded and stop this downsizing and so on, directed by the IMF and the World Bank?
Well, I don't know where the orders or the directions are coming from, but I think I agree with you that we all need to bring to the attention of government that, yes, government must find money to put in places to help people do the work they are supposed to do to protect the public. I agree with you that we must put the pressure.
Now, what are the areas of your most serious concerns with regards to your work? What are your most serious concerns?
Well, it is in the area of people trying to perpetrate crime by putting on the market for sale products that are not fit to be consumed. In the area of food, in the area of drugs, in the area of medical devices. That is our biggest challenge. Now, as we sit now, we must all agree that this is an area that is actually also organized crime. Is perpetrated by people who have a profit motive and people who actually intend to deceive the public by putting these things on the market. Globally, such people are usually a step ahead of regulators, and that is the biggest challenge. Anytime you think you found them out, they find a different way to get these products onto the market. So that is the biggest challenge we face, and there are issues these days. Recently we had to even collaborate with Interpol to go into Togo to chase people who bring products onto the market, and from Togo they distribute it to the whole of the West African sub-region. So it is a big issue for us, and tackling it is very difficult.
This brings to question. You drive around Accra,
yes,
and in all kinds of corners by street side, people are growing vegetables, they're growing lettuce, they're growing all kinds of things. Have you been minded to check the quality of all of this that is being grown in the city by gutters and so on? Have you been minded to check the quality?
Yes, I would say this is an area that is a bit difficult for us. Sometimes the mandate is not very clear as to how far you can go. We've had a lot of
contaminated water.
Exactly.
To grow lettuce, for example.
Exactly.
And lettuce is consumed widely, even in the slums and so on.
Yes.
Should that not be your responsibility to investigate?
Yes. I understand what you're saying, but I think sometimes the difficulty. I talked about mandate, and I'm saying so because sometimes you don't know where the mandate of the Ministry of Agric ends and where that of the Food and Drugs begins.
Is that not your responsibility to ensure that the lines of demarcation are clear?
Yes, if
that impedes your work.
Yes. So we've had a lot of challenges. For instance, what we know is that we start from the farm gate to the plate. So the Ministry of Agric, for instance, would determine which fertilizers are used, what type of manure is used, what type of water is used in the producing the product. But once it is harvested, from that point to the market till the time it's consumed, then it becomes the duty of the FDA.
Shouldn't you be working together with the Ministry of Agri?
Oh yes, I think
because it's an unbreakable chain.
Yes. I think that I would agree with you that in the past there hasn't been a lot of collaboration. There hasn't been a lot of collaboration. We've had issues with chicken. We had issues with meat from the abattoirs, where we were told that we were encroaching on somebody's turf. But we felt that once for instance, the meat, the carcass is inspected, the animal is inspected for slaughter and the carcass is inspected. From that point onwards, we take charge. But we've had a few issues. So I agree with you, we need a lot more collaboration in that area. And we would work at it to collaborate with the agents.
With regards to meat, you are aware of the new technology,
yes,
which can change any meat into any meat.
Yes.
You are aware of that technology.
Well,
you can actually take pork and present it as beef using current technology.
Well, we've heard about some of those technologies. We've heard about other...
There's been a recent scandal.
Yes.
Over meat imports from China.
Yes. We've heard about those ones. And we've heard about issues where they even use other, chemicals to make the meat look fresh, even though it might be stale and all that. Yeah, so these are things that we would test, to confirm for ourselves whether the meat on the market is wholesome, whether other foods or food items on the market is wholesome. So we go on the market from time to time to pick samples of such things, and we do the testing to confirm for us. So far, we haven't come across any of such things. But the moment we do, we would alert the public and we'll take the necessary actions to protect the public.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for coming. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Well, viewers, this is Hot Issues as usual, and it comes from the best television station in the world, TV3. It brings you the best in news, best in current affairs, best in everything.